Why visit the scene when investigating an OUI case? Well, typically what happens after my client has been arrested is I will take a look at the police report, and there will be a number of things in the police report that the officer wrote that are unfavorable and make my client look bad. Oftentimes, when I go to the scene, I find that things are not nearly as bad as how the officer wrote. For example, I've had a number of cases where the officer wrote that my client crossed the lines, and I'll go to where my client turned and crossed the lines, and I'll just sit there and watch, and I'll see 4, 5, 6 people in a row who also cross the lines there. There are some places where it's just pretty normal that that's how someone drives, and if you can take pictures of that and document it, it makes the driving seem normal, which it actually is. Also, I've had many cases where I take pictures of where the officer had my client perform field sobriety tests, either at the side of the road or in a parking lot. And most of the time, the tests are not done under ideal conditions. Ideally, when an officer has my client take what's called the 9-step walk and turn, they're supposed to walk on the line and turn. Probably more often than not, the officers don't have them walk on an actual line. And it can be very effective to argue to a jury that my client was improperly administered a test, and if the test isn't administered correctly, then the results don't mean anything. I find that when I'm trying a case, I like to convey to a judge or a jury that I know the facts backwards and forwards, and I know the case much better than the prosecutor does. And I find that by going to the scene, it shows I know lots of minute details. And if a jury just basically says, this guy's taking these pictures here, this guy knows what's going on, I believe him more than the prosecution, then we are most of the way towards winning the case.